Good evening. Welcome to the Downtown PAC West Palm Beach Mayoral Debate, brought to you by the Palm Beach Post and WPTV Channel 5. I'm Randy Schultz, editor of the editorial page of the Palm Beach Post. I will be moderating this 90-minute debate, questioning the four candidates, Charles Bantel, Molly Douglas, Jerry Morio, and Paula Ryan. Will be Christine Stapleton of the Palm Beach Post and Kelly Dunn of Channel 5. Whoever wins faces a formidable task. West Palm Beach's projected general fund budget deficit for next year is between $8 million and $10 million. The police and fire departments, at a combined $80 million, make up almost half of the general fund's expenses. The city is seeking to bring higher wage jobs to the downtown, and the next administration must decide how to develop the old City Hall site. The candidates tonight will have 2 minutes to respond to the question. The other candidates then will have 1 minute for rebuttal. I can extend the debate on a question to make sure that all candidates get their say. If a candidate does not give a direct answer, I will ask for one. If time permits, we will have a final round of questions with 30-second answers. All candidates will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. Our first question is from Christine Stapleton to Charles Bantel.
Mr. Bantel, name your 2 top priorities, goals that you would tell the voters, if I do not accomplish these, do not re-elect me.
The first one is the city budget. As was mentioned, the city budget is $182 million projected this year. In the city budget, as it is written, there are no cost projections for future years. In addressing the current financial situation of the city, projections are an inherent part of the budgeting project. Without those projections, one cannot move forward. The city budget is also divided into one area where it's the operating expense, and the other is the area of paying of the bonds. There are currently 53 bonds outstanding for the city. Some have actually been paid off. But to bring investment into the city, one needs a very conscious and stable economic plan, and that comes from the city's budget and from the projections in those budgets. My top priority is to have those projections put in the budget and published so investors know what they're investing with financially in this city. The second priority is to take a better look at how we are funding our infrastructure replacement and improvements. There is, I believe, outstanding $500 million worth of work that needs to be done to the water system in combination with the drinking water, the catchment area, purification process, and the wastewater treatment. Okay, we have to address this and the stormwater issues. And I want projections, simply projections, so that we can go ahead and tell investors what costs they're going to be looking at in the future so we can bring economic development to the city.
Douglas?
I have no rebuttal. Is that what you're asking me for? No, I have no comment to that question.
Okay.
Are you asking for us to give the top 2
Sure.
priorities that we would have?
I thought you wanted us to correct him.
Please
I'd
go
be
ahead.
happy to give you 2.
Okay.
Economic development and economic development, in all seriousness. If we don't create jobs, broaden the tax base so that we can maintain and preferably lower the taxes, we are going to be in very serious trouble. We must create jobs. That's economic development. We must create a new and broader tax base. That's reducing your taxes. I have committed, totally experienced in that regard. I've done it for years with both small merchants and major businesses. I'm totally committed to it, from both the local level of incentivizing and helping local businesses that are in place get out from under the terrible challenge they've been under, and also from the international and national perspective of attracting new, clean industry. New, clean commerce will create jobs, will improve our tax base, and we'll have a far more enjoyable city because we'll have new businesses and new attractions in town.
Ms. Moyo?
Yes, mine also is economic development. I plan, and if this doesn't happen, I will not expect you to re-elect me. I plan to put into place a 9-point plan to bring businesses to our city. We have some great opportunities here with digital domain coming to our city to build upon the education piece and the technology piece. I have experience in both of those fields, and I can use that experience to continue to work to attract businesses to our city. We need a broader tax base, and we need to bring wealth to our city. So that's critical. The number 2 priority for me will be to develop a budget model. We need a model that specifies what percentage of our budget are we going to use for public safety, for example? What percentage of our budget do we project for recreation and parks? And we need to take a look at other cities that are of similar size and look at some benchmarks. I know of one city, for example, of similar size, similar demographics, that has half the police budget that we have.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't see the light, sorry.
Sorry. Ms. Ryan.
Thank you. My number 1 priority is to obviously bring economic development to the city. And if I'm not able to accomplish the goals as outlined in my first term, then of course not, I wouldn't expect you to re-elect me. However, in order for us to do what we need to do, we have to understand what's in that budget. We need accountability and transparency. We have a budget that is been cut over the years. We still have wasteful spending going on in in many of the different departments. We have a top-heavy administrative staff. We have cut services. I think the first thing that we need to do is have a budget that the community understands, so that when we start to make the hard choices that we need to do in order to create economic development, they're working with us, not against us. They feel as if they are a part of the process, which I don't think any of us have felt that way, which is why I'm running. This is a city that has provided a...
Okay.
Can I just let you know that the light, do you see the light? It's not working.
I don't see the light.
So, okay.
The bell works.
Okay. Right. The next question is from Kelly Dunn to Molly Douglas.
And you all touched on this to a certain degree with some of your responses, but let's get specific. The city has another multi-million-dollar budget shortfall coming up. Extensive cuts have already been made. Very specifically, which departments, services, and expenses will see the biggest cuts in your budget?
Thank you, Kelly. You know, really, none of us are qualified to comment on this budget. If you'll remember, when Nancy Graham walked through the front door, our internal auditor, Imogene Isaacs, walked in the back door and said, you know that deficit you thought you had, it's really $7 million. And I don't know, it was $7 million that she was not aware of. And I would not be the least bit surprised to find out that we don't really know what the deficit is. And as far as specific departments, I certainly have very good ideas. I've been an apprentice mayor for almost 4 years. We've worked long and we've worked hard. But my plan is to bring a transition team in that will spend 7 days evaluating, discussing, and documenting the management of each department. These will be professionals throughout the city that have a long-standing relationship with the city. They will ask each department, where are you? Where do you plan to be? What do you need to do that you haven't done? Is there anything that we don't know that we need to know? The next 7 days, we'll gather together this transition team, and we'll line up all the books on each department, and we'll begin to meet in separate groups and evaluate. Within 30 days, I'll know exactly what I need to do. And by no means is this transition team going to make the decision. They are simply the gatherer of information. But I will be fully informed and ready to engage the decisions that must be made, and they must be made immediately, so that we can make sure that the deficit, whatever it really, really is,
But for this audience tonight, could you suggest 1 or 2 things you might do?
Certainly. I think there will be a close evaluation of mid-management salaries. That doesn't necessarily mean personnel. It means mid-management salaries. Our salaries are higher than the counties in many instances.
Okay. Ms. Moyo?
Yeah. Is it okay if I stand? I'm Italian and I need to move around.
Actually, no.
Microphone.
Thank you.
Your microphone.
Thank you. Because there
Your
are problems
microphone,
when you
that's
do
it.
that.
Do I still hear it?
You just...
It's right down there. You'll see it. Hanging down
Oh, I
between
see
your
it.
buttons. There you
Thank
go.
Okay, I guess that's why I can't stand.
Technological limitations.
You know, our budget is a very complex organism, and one of the things that we need to do that I mentioned earlier is to make sure that we have a budget model that we're working from. That's the first thing. Second thing, we have to dig deep into our budget and look for areas of cut. When I'm mayor, I will institute a complete process of looking at pension reform. We have to look at our pensions. We have to discuss it. It's difficult. It's going to be difficult, but that's what's causing us to have difficulty meeting the bottom line. I'll also look at MIS. We spend a lot of money on MIS. We have a print shop that we might not need. We have to look at middle management. We have a helicopter, a depreciating asset that's sitting in a hangar. We need to sell it and stop paying $50,000 a year for insurance on it. So we need to look at all of that, and we have to make our budget more understandable to the average person. It is complicated, and there's lots of pieces to it that have to be addressed.
Ms. Ryan.
Yes. I think I can say with confidence that I'm the only candidate up here that actually understands the budget. I can go through it line by line and understand what's going on. We have many, many different divisions that are shown up in different departments, and I understand how to track it, and I understand how to follow it, and there is a great deal of waste internal into so many aspects of that budget. I've already looked at top-level administration. We have huge costs and inefficiencies. We have over $1 million in expenditures just in salaries alone. We have departments that can be outsourced. MIS has been mentioned. In today's world, a lot of governments are outsourcing their information technology. The industry out there is far more advanced than what the city can expend in R&D. We have opportunities to look at our pensions and evaluate what's going on, but I don't think we can ask anybody to make any more cuts until we look internally into what we've been doing.
Mr. Bantel.
I'll give Kelly a specific right off. As I went through the budget line by line, they grounded the helicopter, but it shows a $100,000 salary for the pilot still in the budget. That's one right there. When I was interviewed at Riverwalk today, the wonderful people out there said that they also had gone through the budget line by line. They had come up with 170 suggestions that they had previously brought forward to the commission. And according to those people out there, that was rejected. And this was done at the beginning of the economic downturn. When you reject the ideas that the people out there have, you're just not listening. And there's a lot of people out there with the correct ideas. And
Can you give us one or two of them from Riverwalk, Mr. Bantel?
They did not give me specifics, but they agreed with me also on the budgeting part with the projections and that, and with Ms. Douglas here on the middle management salary positions.
Okay. All right. The next question is from Christine Stapleton to Jerry Moyle.
Ms. Moyle, the city spent $30 million revamping the waterfront and is banking much of its future on the waterfront success. But the docks are rarely used. Unless there's an event downtown, you really don't see many people down there. How much more will you spend on attracting people to the waterfront and to the businesses downtown and attract businesses that are outside of the entertainment, perhaps retail businesses?
Thank you. Yes, we did spend $30 million on waterfront, and I think it's beautiful, and I suspect most of the people in this room think it's beautiful. Do we have a ways to go in terms of getting it to the point we want to get it to? Absolutely. We are in the process of looking at a professional management group to manage what happens downtown. And I think that's in the waterfront. And I think that that's a really good idea, because I'm not sure that the city should be in the business of managing events and everything that's going on downtown at the waterfront. We absolutely do need to look at different businesses. Attracting unique retail to our downtown is essential. You asked about the amount of money I'm willing to spend. I think that we have a CRA that's charged with revitalizing that downtown, and we can look at using some of that money, CRA money, to continue to attract businesses. The same with the DDA. This is a great opportunity for us. We have wonderful events occurring now that are very well attended. I've heard from a lot of people. Actually, a lot of people stop me now to talk about the waterfront because they've heard that we're going to bring in, we're looking at bringing in professional management. And you know what? Most of the people I talk to don't really want it to get too Coney Island-like. They want to keep it a peaceful place to be. They want to be able to use the docks on a regular basis, but they really don't want it to be too carnival-like. So I think we have to listen to what the people are saying as well. I'm excited about the opportunity of downtown growth. We now have wonderful neighbors living there, so we need to have retail that supports people who live in the downtown. You know, we need supermarkets, we need dry cleaners. Then we need unique retail where people will come to the downtown because that's the only place that they can get that particular product. And I know that the DDA is working hard on that.
Ms. Ryan.
Yes, the $30 million spent on the waterfront created a beautiful venue and a beautiful asset to the city. I think it's wonderful. What most people don't understand is that the $30 million also went into the infrastructure that needed to be created. And I think that we need to let the public know exactly what transpired so that they understand what that venue is intended to do. I don't like the fact that the city created this venue and decides that they're not in the business of managing a venue. We have residents, we have businesses, we need to work together to understand what it is that we can bring down there that will work in compatibility. And we're going to have special events, and we're going to bring people from all over the city to come and all over the county to come and look at our city. And what we want them to do is come back. We don't want them to just come down for a fireworks display or a special event. We want them to be there when they think about going to a restaurant, when they think about shopping. We want them to think about coming downtown. The only way that we are going to be able to generate more business opportunity downtown is if we look at our regulatory environment.
Mr. Bentel.
$30 million and nobody uses the docks. You're right. If you yacht, you would understand why. I have access to a boat and I have tried to use those docks. They haven't finished completing the work. You can't tie up a boat there because they didn't bother to put in cleats. If you put a boat there, they didn't bother to put fenders on the dock, so the boat will be beat to hell. It's just that simple. Nobody wants to put a boat there. They need to complete that work if you want to see boats there. You have to be able to tie up a boat properly. Okay, since the docks are there, I'd look into that, and I'd see about getting a fendering and a mooring system that's proper for the people who yacht. Because quite honestly, I would like to get on my brother's boat, go downtown, and take a few guests to lunch down there. It's a wonderful opportunity. A load of people in the yachting community would like to, but they have told me the same thing. The dock is not usable. In the city budget, there's $100,000 a year to maintain those docks. Where are the cleats? Where are the fenders? Not there. Thank you.
All right, the next question is from...
I didn't get to answer that
I'm
one.
sorry. Excuse me.
That's all right.
Excuse me.
I like that
Excuse me, Ms.
question,
Douglas.
so I really want to
All right.
answer it. But if I may reply to Ms. Ryan's being the only candidate that understands the budget or has read it line by line, au contraire, I indeed do and have. I've worked with budgets all my life. I actually took the budget and went to the Ritz-Carlton and stayed for one long weekend to review that budget. As far as the waterfront contracting company, I sat and read the request for bid on that and said to myself out loud to the cat, if anybody answers this request for bid, they've got to be a damn fool. There is no way that anybody could answer that bid and perform that task. In fact, if you said I want to run this part of it, the city would have the right to cancel your contract at will. Why would you make the investment? Why would you get involved? You can't. As far as the docks, lots of people have used them. I've gone out there and walked and talked and not heard the complaints, though they may be legitimate. But the reason they're not used as much as they could is extremely poor planning in the city. When those docks first went in, I had a captain call me from Singer Island. He said, Commissioner, you have to help me. I want to bring people for dinner, to come to dinner in the city, and they won't let me use the docks because your agreement with the state says you can't.
All right. Thank you. All right. Now we will get to that question from Kelly Dunn to Paula Ryan.
Police and fire pensions are becoming a bigger drain on municipalities across the country, including, of course, in West Palm Beach. In your discussions with union representatives, what specific demands have the unions made, and how will you negotiate cuts to pay and benefits?
There have been no demands, there have been no requests, there have been no asks. The only thing that the police and the fire department as well have asked for is to have somebody that they can talk to, somebody that is willing to listen to their side of what is going on. It's very easy to point fingers at the police and fire. They have they take up a large part of our budget. Public safety is critical. If we're going to bring jobs and stabilize our neighborhoods, we're going to have to be able to respond. But what I believe is the best approach to solving any of our budget problems, including the pensions, is to be able to have a dialogue with the people that you're working with. If you're going to ask them to cut, you better be prepared to show them what you're willing to cut. And that's why I think that the endorsement by the police for my candidacy was strictly because of my understanding of what the budget is. And there is a great deal of waste. There is poor planning. We've got city commissioners that sat through the entire planning process related to the waterfront development, and there are a lot of things that are not being produced. So when you look at how we move the city forward, it's not only what can we cut and who can we let go, it's what can we do to generate more economic development. We need to look at our planning department, we need to revitalize our local and planning division so that we are not creating an environment in which businesses do not want to be here. Businesses, it's too expensive for them to be here. And as we produce and increase our economic revenue, we're able to adjust in terms of what our priorities and needs are. I don't think that we have adequately prioritized what.
But do you think that police and fire pensions need to be cut?
Do I think that they need to be cut?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yes.
just cut?
To whatever degree. Cut it all.
I think everything needs to be cut.
Okay. Mr. Bantel?
I've looked into these budgets. First of all, I wish I had a fantasy wand so I could wave it like this over the city and take away half the crime. Then I could lay off some policemen. I wish I could take that same wand and do it so that we don't need the EMS or we don't have fires, and then the firemen can go. But that's not going to happen. To go ahead and cut personnel in either one of those departments, what I keep considering is facing down that one citizen of the community whose house has been broken into because crime is up, whose house went ahead and burned down, whose parent went ahead and died of a heart attack because an EMS worker was unable to make it there in time. As for the pensions, a very excellent question. This goes back to my first response on the economy. One of the problems we have with police and fire pensions, they are defined benefit plans, not defined contribution plans. We pay them ahead in the future out of future taxpayer dollars. What has happened, the fire department and the police department union officials have tried to go ahead and get accurate figures on how well they are funded, and they have been unable to for projections.
And do you think that police and fire pensions need to be cut?
No. I think they need to be funded.
Okay. Ms. Douglas?
Thank you very much. The pension is now the new hot button, the hot button or the warm and fuzzy argument. And it's been there forever. And actuarially, it's been funded in this city. Now what we have before us is problems throughout this country. And I'm amused when you ask a city commissioner, are you going to cut the budget? City commissioner can't cut the budget. This is a negotiated item. It has to be negotiated, and once it's negotiated, it has to go to Tallahassee. We have to find a state legislator that will support the negotiated change. Fire is ready to go. They've admitted they need some changes. Police, I believe we can negotiate with them well when the time comes, because this is a matter of critical importance to the city. Every single dime counts. It's extraordinarily important. But the city doesn't make this decision. You know, I spoke with Representative Joseph Abruzzo.
Okay. Ms. Moyo?
Thank you. You know, I didn't get the police endorsement or the fire endorsement. And I would have liked it because I respect both of them. But I wouldn't agree to the things they asked me to do. They asked about step raises. I talked about pension. I do think that we have to do pension reform. We have to look at pensionable income. What is the pensionable income? Do we continue to allow overtime to be pensionable, and at what level? We have to look at the multiplier, that number where you multiply the number of years of service by a certain number, and that gives you the percent of your salary that you get. We have to look at maybe putting the police and fire pension boards together, systems together. That might save us some money. To say that we're not going to look at pensions is putting our head in the sand, and we can't do that. We had a budget committee that met about 3 years ago. The first thing they said to do that was going to happen was that the pensions were going to bankrupt us. And if we don't address that, we're putting our heads in the sand.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Christine Stapleton to Charles Bantel.
Mr. Bantel, much of the economic development under the current administration has been downtown, but neighborhoods and businesses in other parts of the city, especially those to the south and west, want to know what you will do for them, especially regarding crime, parking, code enforcement, and beautification projects.
First of all, let me address the development part for downtown. It has come to my attention that the people of downtown have gotten together, formed their own committee, obtained an architect, and they've come up with a master plan with the conceptual architecture already done. This is what they want. To address code enforcement, that's a wonderful issue until you're the person who gets the code enforcement notice for some peeled paint or something else. Yes, we'll send the officers down there, and yes, we can start cleaning up the neighborhood. Crime always exists. When the people in the neighborhood get disgusted with it, then they'll finally start doing something about it because they just plain won't allow it. And that is in working with the citizens as they come in, like they have for the mass meeting with the neighborhood, getting together with the police captain, and that's the community enforcement, where then the police then specifically target where the problem is. If it hasn't been happening, it should be happening. And that's the way to address the crime. They have a plan. I want to see the plan, and then let's work the numbers. Thank you.
Christine, I'm sorry, would you repeat the question?
Sure. I'm going to get it back out there. Much of the economic development under the current administration has been downtown, but neighborhoods and businesses in other parts of the city, especially those to the south and west, want to know what you will do for them, especially regarding crime, parking, code enforcement, and beautification projects.
Thank you very much. First, I want to comment on one of the last answers. Ms. Moyo indicated that she did not receive the endorsements because she would not agree to their request. I did receive the fire department endorsement, and I must say they asked nothing of me but my audience.
And that's on the record. Now if we get to this question.
Thank you very much. You all remember Northwood about 4 years ago, prior to my election. I tell people when I'm speaking about Northwood, years ago I couldn't carry my purse on my shoulder for fear of losing it in a most unpleasant way, and now today I can't get reservations. We did that in Northwood. We did it with political will and a determined business community. I have vowed to go north, south, east, and west and make the same thing happen. Northwood was our incubator. It's extremely successful and very exciting for the residents who can now walk to a nice restaurant for dinner. Years ago, we couldn't even walk. So we've come a long way. Crime, the unarmed security has made a lot of difference in City Place, downtown, and Northwood.
Ms. Moyo.
Yes, you know, I think economic development downtown is important because it is our center and it does help to improve property values all over the city. But we have issues all over the city. As a matter of fact, I just attended a neighborhood association meeting in Northwood Harbor where they are inundated with crime and they don't feel as if they've been paid attention to. And I listened to what they had to say, and they have very legitimate concerns. Economic development depends on the quality of life in our city. We can't do economic development if we don't have a safe city, if we don't have an attractive city, if we don't have neighborhoods that are attractive and responsive, if we don't have codes being met. So all of those things are going to add to our economic development. We need to pay attention to that. In addition, when I'm mayor, I'm going to have a neighborhood improvement plan and look at funneling funds in terms of a tax increment, a difference in taxes before and after, directly to the neighborhood so that they can use that money to work on a plan that we've developed together. So I think that that's critical. But, you know, when you talk about economic development, we can bring all of the CEOs, all of the HR directors in, and if it's not a good place to live, they're not coming to our city.
Okay, Ms. Ryan.
Just very quickly, a rebuttal. I just concur with what Commissioner Douglas said with respect to the police and fire. And I also want to let everybody know that they actually brought suggestions to the table in terms of how their budget can be addressed in terms of reductions. So I think that we've already started a working relationship.
Okay, and to the neighborhoods now.
Economic development to the other neighborhoods. Northwood has been a struggle. I lived in Northwood for 8 years. I now live in the center downtown El Cid area. So I have seen the crime in Northwood. I've seen the crime in my neighborhood. I've seen the crime in the South End. And what needs to occur is that we need to have an economic development strategy. And that economic development strategy worked in Northwood because you had a CRA. If you want to get economic development going around the rest of the city, you're going to have to look at our land use and permitting and regulatory environment. If a business is not willing to come or a business wants to grow and expand in this city, it takes them anywhere between 9 months for a minor renovation, talk to a homeowner, or 18 to 24 months for new construction. If we want to do any economic development, we have to look at our regulatory environment and how the city responds to our community.
All right. I believe that's that question. The next question is from Kelly Dunn to Molly Douglas.
What are your plans specifically to bring higher wage, higher technology jobs to downtown West Palm Beach, for example, companies like Digital Domain? And are there any incentives that could be offered to bring them here and attract them and company, more than just nightclubs, bars, and restaurants, the high wage, high technology jobs?
I hear you and I'm with you. When I was on the commission in Vero Beach, Piper Aircraft came to the commission and said, we need incentives. And the commission said no. I was the only voice that said, yes, let's help them with some employee incentives, which is one thing we can do, of course. Here, you know, it took Piper almost 10 years, but they got out of Vero Beach. That's your answer. But what am I going to do about attracting it? I'm going to have an economic development czar who has connections throughout the world, the country, and the state, who will be incentivized to bring industry, good, clean industry, to the city. Commerce is a much better word. And that's thinking out of the box. That's not normal procedure. But we're going to figure out how we can do it, and we're going to make it happen, because it has to happen, because more industry, more commerce brings your taxes down and makes our people more profitable. They've been through enough. They don't need more taxes. They absolutely do not. So we're going after high tech. We're going after health care. We're going after good, clean industry. In fact, I brought good, clean industry to the city not too long ago. A guy wanted to do a Volkswagen, which really just went together like a Tonka toy. Click, click, click. And I wanted to put him in one of the first floor.
I'm sorry, he wanted to do a Volkswagen?
It's an electric car by Volkswagen that really puts together click, click, click. And do you remember Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, how much fun it would be to put them in one of the first floor buildings where the kids could watch the cars going together?
So we're going to go recruit the Oompa Loompas then? To go,
exactly, and it was totally, totally clean. Okay. I couldn't get it past planning. I couldn't get it past CRA. It was too bad, it really was. But that's the kind of things we're going to do. We're going to think outside the box. We're going to be determined, and we're going to consult with experts and make it happen.
All right. Ms. Moy, would you like to think outside the chocolate box as well?
Personally, I'd rather think inside the chocolate box, those of you who know me. Yeah, economic development is a critical piece. And one of the first things that I'm going to do is make sure that the folks who work in the city understand that we're open for business. That means planning, that means construction services, that we are going to be customer service friendly, and you are our priority one. We have to have that to bring economic development to our city. Secondly, we have to make sure, as I said earlier, that our city is ready, that we are a safe place to live, that we have great schools, that we have recreation for families who come to our city. We need to make sure that happens. Also, we have the opportunity to build on digital domain. We've already attracted Lynn University to our city, FIU to our city. We can build on that education component. And as a former educator, I'm excited about the prospect of education as an economic developer. I think we can also look at the whole digital technology piece. Digital technology is used in medicine. Digital technology is used for the Department of Defense. We can have a whole research triangle around digital technology. You know, I heard Kelly Smallridge speak the other day at Leadership Business Council, and I guess I won't tell you about what she said.
There'll be another moment, I'm sure. Ms. Ryan.
I mean, very simply, the best way to bring higher wages and a higher level of employee base to this city is to be a place where they want to be. I don't know if you saw the Palm Beach Post today, but on the front page, the businesses are finding Florida to be a lot more attractive, but where are they going? They're going to Boca. Because if you follow and track what the economic engine's base starting point is an environment in which they can get in, develop the business, the footprint that they do their business in, and get out. They don't have time to spend 18 or 24 months in a planning stage and then go through 12 months of construction. We have embedded our master plans and our mixed-use plans into our comprehensive plan. You need 22 variances to put a Checkers on Broadway. You want to bring businesses to West Palm Beach, we need to be a place where businesses want to be. That's a safe, clean, vibrant city. We need to start from the inside.
Mr. Bantel.
High-tech industry is a wonderful catchword. What actually is a high-tech industry that's still working in the United States and still manufacturing in the United States? All of these industries are actually incentivized to go ahead and manufacture overseas. But there are things that we do manufacture. What's not known is that, as a matter of fact, in Boca, we make the highest tech machines on the face of this planet, and they create all of those computer chips that you use in all of your phones. In Riviera Beach, they have some of the most highest tech carbon fiber manufacturers of parts and components. What the city has not done is allow businesses simply to get into the warehouse spaces that they need to do it, because our tax base in this city is higher than those other areas. Our permitting fees, our operating, and our license fees. Now, when these manufacturing companies are ready to expand, I'm ready to work with them. But they're already here, the ones that will be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is from Christine Stapleton to Jerry Moyo.
Among the biggest complaints about downtown are parking, noise, and nightclubs. What is your position on eliminating or reducing the hours of paid parking, implementing noise restrictions, and limiting the number of nightclubs with the hope of promoting downtown as a business district as well as an entertainment district?
Would you repeat that again?
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Among
there
the
are
biggest,
multiple facets to it.
Yeah, among the biggest complaints downtown
Right.
are the parking, noise, and nightclubs. And what is your position on eliminating or reducing the hours of paid parking, noise restrictions, and implementing the number of quotas on the number of nightclubs downtown with the hope of promoting business as well as entertainment downtown?
Well, you know, right now our downtown is an entertainment district, and everything that goes along with that as an entertainment district. I would be in favor of looking at decreasing the hours of paid parking, because I think that is one of the real reasons that people don't come from, you know, they'd rather go to the Gardens Mall because they don't have to pay for parking when they could come down to Clematis Street and have a good time, but they would have to pay for parking. So I think that's one of the things we absolutely have to look at. I know that there have been a lot of concerns about the noise. We have to find a way to balance that. You know, we have vibrant nightclubs, vibrant restaurants that we want to continue to be vibrant, but we also want the people who live in downtown to have an excellent quality of life. I have said, and I will say again, that I'm in favor of revisiting our noise ordinance so that we can make it more specific and more easily enforceable. I think it's ambiguous right now. I think we need to take a look at that and need to develop it with both restaurant owners and with the people who live downtown. We have to figure out how to do this. Other cities have done it, and I don't see why we can't figure out how to do this. I did support a moratorium on nightclubs in the downtown area. I think we have to, I know that we have to take a look at how many nightclubs we have, where they're located, and where they might be better located. So we're going through that process now, and I welcome it.
Ms. Ryan.
Parking first. I think that we should not charge at the meters. Parking meters are good when you have a lot of cars coming and you need to be able to move people along. We don't have that. Our downtown during the day is basically government workers, and the shopping opportunities, they go elsewhere. So I think we need to just eliminate the parking meters downtown right now. The noise ordinance, I agree. I think you need to put a noise ordinance in place that that works with the special events. We have a noise ordinance as it is. However, what we don't have is a police force that's downtown. We have private security. You want to enforce the law, you need law enforcement downtown. We need to create opportunities to incentivize the local landowner so that smaller businesses can come into the retail space. I think it's great we put large amount of money into the digital domain and the waterfront and the city hall, but we also have to deal with the small business owner. We need to make it affordable for them to come in, utilize the space that is available, and provide unique opportunities.
Mr. Bentel.
Please repeat the question.
Sure. Among the biggest complaints about downtown are parking, noise, and nightclubs. What is your position on eliminating or reducing the hours of paid parking, implementing noise restrictions, and limiting the number of nightclubs with the hopes of making downtown as much of a business district as entertainment district?
Okay. When I moved to Florida in '82, I went down to the city of West Palm Beach, and I could not believe that a city could roll up the sidewalks at night and just turn itself off. That is an incredible economic opportunity for the local businessmen. As for the noise, this can be engineered to reduce the levels of it greatly, okay, and actually contain the noise within the establishments that are holding them. Bose happens to work with sound. Okay, as for the parking, it's a city. Parking is always limited in a city. You go ahead, there'll be metered parking, there'll be metered lots. Let's keep the rates fair. Let's keep the people coming and keep those businesses open, because otherwise we're just going to close up downtown. But the noise does have to be addressed because other people want to live downtown. As I drive through, I see many apartments there that weren't there before, and they're beautiful buildings, and they should be occupied. And it will bring more vitality down there. But if I went to look at the apartment and I was there at night and I couldn't sleep.
Ms. Douglas.
Thank you very much. All very good questions wrapped into one. Paid parking. I think it's pretty obvious when you go to the Green Market on Saturday morning, what a wonderful event. That's free parking. And it's incredibly successful. Could I wave my magic wand and say no parking fees? I'd love to, but it's not in the budget this year. What I think we should do is do some free parking Fridays or park free on Thursday mornings and get the merchants together to do promotions and see how much impact it has on business as we create and incubate small businesses downtown with my plan, which I know how to do. We will see if parking really is impactful. You know, City Place now tells us they used to do first hour free. Now they do second hour free. And at first it was an uncomfortable situation for them, but that all changed. It's not really giving them much trouble. I too agreed to and voted on the moratorium on nightclubs. And really, a lot of us wanted to do it citywide simply to get an opportunity to tweak that nightclub impact on the city. It's not that the nightclubs are bad.
Ms. Moyo. Yes, you're right. You started.
Talk about something else if you'd like.
Well, if I could wave a magic wand, I'd get all of these right every time.
Do you want us to hold our hand up?
This is sure. The next question is from Kelly Dunn to Paula Ryan.
Ms. Ryan, in 2007, you resigned your position as the city's interim housing director after a city audit identified possible conflicts of interest. According to the findings, you used program funds to replace the roofs of two personal friends whose roofs appeared not to have been damaged in the hurricanes. You awarded a no-bid $1 million plus contract to a firm with which you and your future husband had done business. Were there conflicts of interest, and why should voters trust you?
There's a lot of questions in there. One, there were no conflicts of interest. I was a consultant. I was brought in to put together a housing policy. That policy was to provide workforce housing opportunities for the city. During my term with the city, it was determined that there were over 366 people who had suffered damage from the hurricane. Looking for resources, we were told there was no money. We did an audit of the finance department. We found that for 5 years, there was $1 million sitting on the books that had not been utilized. I was a consultant that worked within an existing structure. The program was already in place through the rehabilitation that was approved by the City Commission, the administration, law, and procurement. I worked within an environment that already existed. I had absolutely no authority to make any decisions with respect to contractors or who got a roof or who didn't get a roof. I have been accused of a conflict of interest, but I have never, ever been asked for my input on what the accusations were. The audit did not come out until after I left. It was undertaken during the course of my tenure, and I was not asked to leave. I was actually asked to have my contract renewed in the middle of January, because the original intent of my contract with the city was to create a policy. Those policies would have created resolutions for all of the problems associated with putting the blue roof, putting that program into place. City administration was not willing to do it. City Commission was not willing to force it. I was there for a program, policy, administration contract, not to try to solve the problems internal and systemic to the city. And going forward, it made absolutely no sense to me. We had 107 roofs in 100 days, of which they were all very low income, elderly, or disabled.
So just quick, so are you saying that any problems with the Blue Roof program were not of your making, they were of the city's making?
That is absolutely correct.
That's what you're saying. Okay, Mr. Bentel? You can comment on her answer on this issue.
Oh, okay. I always wondered how. Quite honestly, an auditor did an audit. She did a job. If there was something wrong with it or illegal with it, why did they not bring charges? So if they didn't bring charges, maybe what they found is something that looked improper, but they had no proof. So I'm not going to accuse another candidate of doing something wrong if there's no proof. And it was looked into. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Douglas.
Well, internal audit blue roof report. I think a lot of us have probably read it from cover to cover because it is really important to this city. Right now, initially, the city was on the hook for $3 million as a result of the HUD inspection, which brought this report to light. I must say that as president of the Internal Audit Committee, we had extensive conversations on this matter years later because we had to make sure that these, whenever anything goes wrong, the first thing you want to do is find out how did it happen, how can we fix it, how can we make sure it doesn't happen again. So this came up in discussions about other housing projects. The internal auditor, who has been with the city 30 years at least, swears that she went to Ms. Ryan every step of the way and said, you're going to have problems, you're going to have problems, you're going to have problems. And knowing Imogene Isaacs as I do, I suspect she did do that because she is a harangue, if nothing else. This city is still on the hook for a little under $1 million after several years of our finance director and our internal auditor negotiating with HUD.
We can go another 15 seconds on this.
Negotiating with HUD to bring that penalty down. This was a matter of poor inspections or no inspections, a matter of contractors going to work without bids. It was a serious matter, and I'm not qualified to comment on why there weren't any charges, but I've read the report, I've talked to the people that participated in it, and I believe...
Okay. All right. Ms. Moyo.
Well, as Commissioner Douglas said, the audit report is public information, and I encourage you all to read it. I, too, chaired the audit committee, and I know how extensive and in-depth the reviews are. And I think that to be an informed voter, you probably should take a look at that report. I just want to say to you that I have a 30-year proven record of honesty and integrity. And I expect, and I will, bring that to the mayor's office. You can expect that I will continue to have the highest level of integrity and honesty.
Okay, but if possible, could you tell us what conclusions you drew from the audit?
I think that there was mismanagement of funds and a conflict of interest. And I think the audit clearly stated that the Director of Housing and Community Development had worked through a conflict of interest, and that we also had been fined by HUD for some of these activities.
Okay. The next question is from Christine Stapleton to Charles Bantel.
Mr. Bantel, you are an electrician with no job and no experience holding office. What qualifies you to be mayor?
Okay, when I was actively working as an electrician, I was frequently moved up to the foreman and then lead foreman positions because it's always been recognized people on the job, my leadership abilities. And I have went ahead and been the lead foreman on several major public projects that have been in the backgrounds. They have been water plants and golf courses. This is how I learned to manage people. Financially, I've been self-taught in financial matters, and I've had a personal tutor. In that effort, what has happened to me, though I have been employed for over 2 years and recently only had 1 month of employment, I've been able to pay for my campaign myself and support myself. So thank you.
So your qualifications are
Money management and leadership skills of people.
Okay. Do you want to give any examples of how many people you led or elaborate on that?
On one job site, there was 25 people. On another job site, there was 5.
Okay. Ms. Douglas?
Thank you. Well, 1962 was my first job, and it was Western Federal Savings and Loan in Denver, Colorado, analyzing escrow accounts, calculating payoffs, and figuring assumptions. And that was in the days, ladies and gentlemen, when there were no computers. So mathematically, I'm still at quite a debt. My leadership skills have taken me a 25-year career in radio. I was so blessed. It was a great industry to be in and a great education for me. I started in street sales in a very small market, a town of 30,000, making $18,000 a year. I ended up as vice president, general manager of a group here in West Palm Beach. The mother lode was KGR. My salary was 6 figures, and I was the first female general manager of a station that large in Florida. It was a thrilling ride. I loved it. Then I went into real estate, and I was a top producer for 10 years in this market after my first year. I have the ability to create revenue. I have the ability to energize personnel. I have the energy and the ability to recognize what the challenge is and how to inspire people to answer it. That's why I will lead West Palm Beach out of this economic crisis into an economic development.
Ms. Moyo.
I feel as if I'm uniquely qualified to be mayor. I hold a PhD in education leadership. I've been assistant superintendent of schools, where I've had hands-on experience managing and developing a budget. A budget, by the way, that had to be voted on by the public. I had hands-on experience negotiating with unions. I had hands-on experience dealing with personnel issues, and I dealt with the public every day. In addition, I worked as a vice president of a software company, so I know what it means to be accountable in both the public and the private sector. I have led organizations through quality improvement process, organizations that were already doing a good job, because I believe that even on our best day we can be better. It's not easy when you already believe you're doing a good job to take a close look at yourself and say, how can I get better? I've inspired countless teachers, students, parents to work together on creative initiatives at the school district level. I've been involved with implementing complex change in a complex organization.
Okay. Ms. Ryan.
I've actually created jobs. I have managed for over the last 18 years nearly $100 million in projects per year. I have a background in investment banking, municipal financing. I have managed people in a development process. I have worked with community stakeholders to build communities. The information that has been talked about with respect to the Blue Roof program and the audit. We're talking about 3 separate audits, just so to keep everybody, so they're not confused. There was an Inspector General audit that the city has done over 2002 to 2007, in which $3.3 million was identified as being wasted. I understand what goes on internally. I understand what the systemic problems are with respect to finance, procurement, and law. There was $3 million that was just given back to the county or taken back. I got that grant for the city. And I told the city when I left, you either make these changes to the programs, increase your focus in terms of audits and compliance before the fact as opposed to after the fact, or you're going to lose that money. So my ability to lead this city comes from my business experience and my understanding of the city and how it works.
All right, thank you. The next question is from Kelly Dunn to Molly Douglas.
Ms. Douglas, you mentioned your career in real estate. Your profession as a realtor puts you in a unique and possibly sensitive position as a mayor. As a city commissioner, you attempted to speed up the permitting process on a property you had listed. Your own home was in foreclosure, and by your own admission, you were investigated by the FBI. Can you explain to voters why they should trust your financial judgment, your impartiality, and your ethical standards?
All right, the first question was, I tried to influence the permitting on a property that I had listed. That's not true. The property, I attempted to influence permitting on properties throughout the city because we were a city about which builders said, I won't build in West Palm Beach. I won't work in West Palm Beach because the permitting process was so painfully slow. Right after I was elected, the night I was elected, Kirk Grantham came to the E.R. Bradley's where we were having our celebration. And he said, you have to do something about permitting. I went to work on it. It took 2 years of rewriting policy and pushing it down the throat of the city. They resisted in every way. And that charge of trying to influence permitting on a house I had listed was a charge made by a city employee to a reporter to try to stop the process. But the process didn't stop. I didn't mind being accused of duplicity. There was none. And that was ultimately the finding. My own house has never been in foreclosure, ever. Chase filed an error after it was paid off. We have a court-ordered release of that case in our hands, and it's just not true, honestly. Chase is one of the worst, I hate to talk about it, but one of the worst banks in this housing crisis. They take people's houses while they're negotiating mediation. It's just, and you try to call them and talk to them. I actually sent them checks to pay off the house. They sent them back in about 3 weeks. I talked to a executive representative who said, wire the funds. Wire the funds. So I wired the funds. 2 weeks later, they wired them back and filed foreclosure. The house had never had a late payment on it. As a realtor, I have no challenge as a mayor because I can't work as a realtor if I'm a mayor. But I'll tell you what being a realtor in this city has done for me. I know every nook and cranny of this city. I know what the needs are. I know exactly where I need to start, and I will. I'm going to make it.
And if we can, extend the FBI?
Pardon?
The FBI?
Sure. I was sitting at my desk about 11 o'clock in the morning, I mean maybe 2 months after I'd been elected, and this man called and said he was John Kastronakis. And he wanted to talk to me. And I said, great, no problem. I'll be at City Hall about 1 o'clock. And he said, you don't understand. You don't want me to come to City Hall. So he asked me to come someplace else to a building for a private meeting. I didn't feel comfortable going in the back door without signing in. So I called Michael Weeks. He joined me. We talked to the FBI. They shook my hand when I left and said, thank you. I wish all our public servants were as involved as you are, and subpoenaed my records for 5 years. But it's over. It's done.
Okay. Ms. Moyo?
Well, you know, I think these are tough questions, and you know, I've worked together with Commissioner Douglas for 4 years, and I respect her. I think that there are issues that have to be looked at, however, in terms of conflict of interest, and what will happen if she's elected mayor to her business, who will manage the business, and will there be any ongoing conflicts? That's all I have to say.
Ryan?
Well, I understand what it feels like to be accused of something that you were not responsible for, or you were not even directly related to what the conflict is that you were accused of. I can't speak to Commissioner Douglas's problems. I hope that she has acted in a professional and ethical manner. I would expect nothing more or less of any candidate who proposes to run for mayor or city commission. I mean, we're talking about public service here. I understand what public service is. I come from a long line of military, community-based, committed individuals, and it takes a lot more of yourself in order to put out, to step out here, put yourself in front of the community, and offer what it is that you think that you can do for the city that you love. So I understand where she's coming from, and I take her on her word.
Mr. Bantel?
On Channel 18, they show code enforcement meetings. Many of the people that go before the special magistrate that have finally cleaned up properties have these great liens reduced. The reason it takes these people so long is because it took so long to obtain the permits. When a special magistrate understands that, and if this commissioner went over to building and planning, zoning, construction, and tried to see what the problem was to go ahead and speed up permitting, all the power to you. I've looked at the budget. There are only 8 plan reviewers in the city budget, but there's 10 lawyers. As for the other charges, if you answered for it and there's no charges pending, what's the problem here?
All right, thank you. The next question is from Christine Stapleton to Jerry Moyo.
You've received the endorsement of Mayor Lois Frankel, and you've called the mayor your mentor. How do you respond to your critics who say that if you are elected, you will merely be a puppet of Mayor Frankel?
You know, I guess it was Ronald Reagan when he was in a debate, he said something like, oh, there you go again. Well, you know, this is a question that comes to me all of the time. First of all, I'd like to say that I think Lois Frankel has done a good job as mayor. Secondly, I'd like to say nobody knows the job of mayor better than Lois Frankel. She knows what it takes to be mayor. She knows the ins and outs of what being a mayor is. And if she thinks that I can do the job, then I'm very proud of that. She's a friend, and I don't abandon friends. However, people who say that she is going to control me, that she will tell me what to do, are absolutely ridiculous. They don't know me, and if they did, the last thing they would say was that I can be controlled by someone else. I'm proud of the work that I've done, and I will be proud to be the mayor of the city. And I, you know, to the mentor point, when I came on the city commission, I had never held elected office. I was a novice at elected office. I'd done a lot of important things in my life, but I had never been in elected office. And I learned a lot from her. That's it.
Okay. Ms. Ryan.
Is that my question? How her
Well,
endorsement?
the question here, the question is, do you think that Mayor Frankel would be any sort of a shadow mayor, have any role, and would that be a good or a bad thing if Ms. Moyo was elected?
Well, I think we all know who our mayor is. You either love her or you hate her. She's a strong personality. I know she loves the city, and I know that she will continue to try to do things to make the city better in her eyes. She has fought very hard for the projects that she has done. City Center, the waterfront, then the library. However, over 8 years, there are a lot of things that have happened underneath the surface that the public does not know or understand. That's how we're at an $8 to $10 million budget deficit. And talk about whether or not the city commissioners have the ability to address the budget concerns. That's what their sole purpose is on the city, is to bring forward concerns related to their community and find resources to provide solutions. I'm happy that that Commissioner Moyo has the mayor's endorsement.
Why are you happy?
Well, it's, you know, I have the police endorsement. There are people who love it that hate it. You know, automatically it draws, you know, some line in the sand. Commissioner Douglas has the fire. Commissioner Moyo has, you know, Mayor Frankel. So I think we're all equal in terms of hating and loving what, and expecting what everybody's going to do.
All right.
So.
All right, Mr. Bantel.
Mayor Frankel assisted these two commissioners when they went to go ahead and run for office the first time, and she assisted in getting them elected and placed on the commission. As a result, I've seen in commission meetings where they've gone along with quite a few of our policies, and if that's what that mayor did, that's what that mayor did. That's history. Okay? But, well, shake your head. I've seen it, and I've seen you argue with them. Okay? But, you know, it's which vision do you want to have for the city? You know, will she be a puppet mayor? I doubt it. I actually doubt it. They both have their own personalities, they both have their own ways, and they'll do what they want to do. I have seen that too. So no, I'm not going to accuse Ms. Mayo over there of ending up being a puppeteer mayor from Mayor Frankel.
I think the idea is she's the puppet and Ms. Frankel's the puppeteer, but words, words, words. Ms. Douglas.
Well, I too am glad Ms. Moyo got Mayor Frankel's endorsement because I wouldn't want it, quite frankly. And I say that with all due respect to Lois Frankel. She's worked hard, she's had a vision, she's accomplished a lot of it. Has she pushed harder than she should have? Maybe, maybe. But she's gotten it done. I'm going to have to respect that. She didn't help me get elected, by the way. I absolutely got myself elected through hard work and hard work. Lois is leaving in 8 weeks. Why would we say anything but good luck and thank you? As far as Commissioner Moyo's vulnerability to Lois's suggestions, probably, but perhaps not dramatically. And I think that's a natural thing. You'll remember when Nancy Graham left. She badly wanted to influence Lois Frankel, and that, in fact, I think they'd agreed to it. It took about 3 weeks of 2 women in City Hall and gone. That was over. And I think that's pretty much how it'll happen here.
All right, well, we will segue from that nicely into the next question from Kelly Dunn to Paula Ryan.
Give a grade, A through F, for Lois Frankel's work and explain the reasons for the grade and how your administration would differ from hers.
I have to give her 1 grade. She doesn't have separate subjects in which she can get different grades.
Nope, it's like the FCAT school grades here.
It's 1 grade.
It's a fact score.
That's what you get.
She gets a C. And the reason she gets a C is that she's worked very hard to move the city forward. She's done some great projects. She is a policy person. She spent years in the legislature fighting for the people in which she represented. Being the mayor of this city with a strong mayoral position, it's about being a CEO. It's about understanding what your budget. It's about what your budget is. It's about understanding where your costs are. It's about understanding how your departments work. It's about managing people. It is about being able to plan and thinking forward in terms of if you're going to have overnight docks at the boat, let's put sleeves for electric and water. Never mind cleats and whatever else. Lois Frankel has a vision, a policy, approach to things. She doesn't have a very good understanding of the details. This job is about understanding the details. It's about putting the policies in place and getting them done. It's about working with your city commissioners to help them bring resources to their community so that the constituents that she represents throughout the city are benefited. Not just one neighborhood, not one area, the entire city. And I think it's been very difficult for the mayor to focus on that many things at one time.
So could you get to some differences, please?
The differences between me and her?
Correct.
Well, the fact that I've been a CEO my entire professional career.
I think what we're looking for here is some policy or administrative differences that you could cite for this audience, things where you would do differently than what she has done.
Well, I would take a hands-on approach to running the city. I mean, it's a strong city administrator position. That's what the mayor of West Palm Beach is. You need to...
And where do you think she's been hands-off to the city's detriment?
Where she's been hands-off? Mm-hmm. She was hands-off on our water department and our water plant for years. She has been hands-off on redevelopment in the south end of the city. They have worked for years to try to create a plan to bring to the city to help get support. She's been hands-off in terms of other businesses that have been trying to come into the city, and they say, you made it through permitting for this project, but why can't we make it through, land use and zoning and planning? So, I mean, it's the entire city that needs to, the entire department, all of the departments have to work for the entire city, not just for specific projects.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bantel.
I never thought of this as a situation where we're looking back instead of looking forward. So to give the mayor a grade, I'll give Lois a C. I'd like to give her a better grade. Some of the things she did has made this a really beautiful city. Okay, I mean, I go downtown, it's built. It looks lovely. We have a new city hall, new library. If you've actually been in, it's lovely. The difference that I would do, though, is that I would have brought the issue to the voters to ask permission. Can I spend your money and build this? And that's why I think the mayor has, Lois, has really failed. Because she didn't sell these ideas to the voters. She didn't sell it to the taxpayers. With this budget, it's literally $1,664 per person per year in this city. If I'm reaching into your pocket for one of those dollars, I want to give you the chance to have a say in it. And that's why I think Mayor Lois has really failed. She didn't engage the people. She didn't sell the projects to them. Thank you.
Okay, and do you, and so your differences are that you would seek a referendum on some things, or you would just go and campaign more for projects?
If there's a project that needs sufficient amount of money that requires a bond issue, it's going to an election. The people will get to decide it.
Okay. Ms. Douglas?
Rough question, rough question. Lois was my hero when I was elected. I was thrilled to death to be able to work with her. As the years progressed and the grade came out to be a D- because Lois does not play well with others. And that's unfortunate, and it's much deeper than that casual comment. Lois does not tell the truth. And it's not because she wants to hurt anyone, it's because she thinks it's for the greater good. But I'm going to tell you something. If the city I'm running makes a mistake, it's my responsibility, and I'm going to tell the citizens it happened. I'm going to tell the citizens how it's going to get fixed, and I'm going to tell them how it's going to be prevented from happening again. I think that's very important. I'm also going to empower the commissioners, and that's been a real problem in this city. We don't know a fact until it's a last-minute fact that we just practically get pushed through. And it's very difficult to find out information in the city. You ask, if you want to know something from Mr. Wu in planning, you have to ask Mr. Mitchell via email to please ask Mr. Wu in planning what the situation is. Mr. Wu then asks an employee in planning, and it's 3 days later before you get an answer.
We can extend this a bit.
Okay, thank you. I think that's atrocious. I think that my commissioners can speak to their staff throughout the city and communicate and become empowered to make things happen. When I was doing the Construction Services Challenge, it was impossible for me to get information about permitting. It really, really was.
Just a couple of other things. What's missing, I believe, is that grade for the mayor. And if you could give us an example. You see, I'm sorry. What about an example where she didn't tell the truth?
Sure. Negotiating with the police. She came to the commissioners and told us that the police were going to, quote unquote, destroy us. She went to the police and said, I've talked, I've begged the commissioners, I've begged them, and they won't give you a raise. And you know, that may have been a negotiation, but it really bothered me. It didn't tell us the truth, and it didn't allow us to play with a full deck.
Okay. Ms. Moyo.
Yes. First of all, I'd like to say, excuse me, that it's very interesting that the only dirt you could dig up on me was that Mayor Frankel is supporting me. So I just want to say that. I guess I would give her a B. I think her strengths are also the things that get in her way. She's very focused. She has a real vision for the city, and she's tenacious about that vision. And as a result, has accomplished a good deal in our city. You know, I think City Center has brought wonderful things to Clematis Street. I think the downtown waterfront park is going to be terrific, already is terrific. However, in that tenacity and that stick-to-itiveness and that pursuit of her vision, she's left people behind. And I think that that's probably her biggest weakness. In addition, I also believe that she's a legislator. Her focus has been on getting things done, addressing the policies. The running of the business of the city has not been her priority. And as a result, I think that we've had some struggles in that area. You know, I have experience running organizations. I've experienced running public organizations.
Yeah, could we get a couple of examples of stronger differences too? You've gone over your background, but like specific things in terms of that administration of the city that you might want to highlight that you would do differently.
Well, one of the things I would do differently would be to bring people into the discussion. I think it's important that the residents of this city feel like this is their city, and they're involved in the decision making. They're involved in developing the vision, and that we're accountable and transparent for the decisions that we make. People know why I made a decision. I'm also, when I'm mayor, going to ask people about what do you think? Tell me what you're thinking, tell me how we're doing, evaluate the work that we're doing.
All right. Okay, if I could now, if I could just take moderator's privilege for just a couple of things that have come up. All of you have mentioned crime more than once, and in a way that indicates you're not terribly happy with some of the crime enforcement in the city. All across, left to right, 30-second answer, please. Would you retain Chief Delsa Bush?
Yes.
Okay. You would, and please
I would
explain. Please
retain her
explain.
because the job is simply being done. She's doing what she can with her resources, through her captives, through her people on the ground. They need more support from the community to go ahead and give them the information that they need to help go ahead and get to the criminals. Okay, I do not fault her for the crime in the city. She didn't make the crime. She's fighting it.
Okay. Ms. Douglas?
No, and not because of crime, but because of the Open Sky Radio Challenge. The city has spent over $5 million trying to create an operable radio system with interoperability, I can't say it, and it's not working. It's not working yet. We've spent $5 million. We're scheduled to spend another $2 million, and our Chief Bush is adamant. She will not listen to any counsel on this, nor will she listen to the consultants who in Milwaukee say their system is $23 million and they still are not working. It's a dangerous system.
Ms. Moyo?
No, I would not. And I've said this before. I believe that we need to be doing more innovative policing, and I think that the morale in the police department is very low, and I credit that to her. She has a role in making sure that the people who work for her are happy to be working for her, are excited about the job they're doing, and are feeling like valued members of our organization. I don't think that's happening. I'm concerned about the open sky system, and I think that we should not be doing that.
Okay. Ms. Ryan?
Well, let me just tell you that getting rid of her is not going to get rid of her salary. So that being said, I'm not going to leave her in the position of leadership also. So
that's a no. You would not retain her.
That's correct.
Okay.
So what, if you're going to say no and not retain her, you need to understand that she's not going away. But so Captain Bush or Chief Bush and Mayor Frankel have similar personalities. They see things their way, and that's the way they pursue it. And they don't take into consideration what they're anybody else.
One more 30-second if we can. You all are aware that voters in the 1990s imposed height restrictions east of Olive Avenue. You know that the mayor has attempted to evade those height restrictions without going back for a second referendum. Again, left to right, please. Would any of you, if elected mayor, try to build something taller than the height restrictions allow without going back to voters?
I would go back to voters. They went ahead and approved it in the last vote where they restricted that City Hall site to 5 stories. That's what they voted for. That's the decision of voters. That's what I will go for with Mayor. Just that simple. They have the say. Thank you.
No, I will not attempt to change the City Hall site to a higher level without voter participation.
Ms.
No,
Moyo?
I will not attempt to change any site east of Olive to more than 5 stories without voter participation and agreement.
Ms. Ryan?
I would not propose without a referendum and going back to the public.
Okay. Well, on that unanimous note, we're at the time for closing statements, and all of you have heard things said about you directly or indirectly, so we can make this closing statement / rebuttal or closing rebuttal / statement if you like. But I think we will go continue left to right. You all have 2 minutes each. And Mr. Bantel, please start.
Okay. I want to be mayor of this city so I can bring it forward into the future. To do that, I want to have a well-made and documented budget. We have budget problems. Let's bring them out in the light so that we can look at it, explore it. As I've been to citizens committees and initiatives, they've all come up with some wonderful ideas. I'm going to explore that. In that, I hope to bring the economic opportunity for businesses to the city, because the door of my administration will be open and the phone will be answered. People have concerns. I wish to represent their concerns. One of the things that I have been asked continuously is, what is my vision of the city? My vision of the city is I represent the people's wishes. It isn't so much what I want for the city, but what do the people want for the city? I want them to bring their ideas to me, because collectively, I believe a much better vision of the city will then emerge, and it will come from the citizens, and then will be accepted by the citizens. And that is really what I want out of the administration. As for, I would also like to address the administrative part of it. The mayor is the political officer of the city. Many people are hired in administration to go ahead and take care of the day-to-day details, okay, that I do not have to do myself. But what I do need to do is make sure that these people are on target, that they are doing their job, and that they are treating the public fair in all matters. And I thank you.
All right. Ms. Douglas.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you all being here this evening, and I appreciate your dedication to the city that I love. I have a passion for West Palm Beach. I've been in Florida 28 years. I've been in this city for 18. As a realtor, I've come to know every part of the city, and I've met people from every walk of life. You know, I've been walking the city. I've walked from Arlington to 59th, from Flagler to Parker. I've walked Parker Ridge, Vidotto Park, Mangonia, and I'm hitting the Northwest next week. Firemen are walking with me 3 days a week, and black business leaders are walking with me 4 days a week. And I have come to know my citizens and what their needs are. Their needs are simple. They want to live in a safe city. They want to be able to afford to keep their house. They want to be able to buy groceries, and they want to have a life to go to downtown. I have dedicated my 4 years as a commissioner to making this a user-friendly city. I want a red button in every staff member's hands. When you call, I want you to feel welcome, not push 4 for this and 5 for that. We're going to change that. We're going to help you. If you have a problem, we'll help you. That's what this city is here for. This is your city. You pay the bills. You should be helped. We're going to have a user-friendly city. We're going to empower the commissioners so that they can actually, since you elected them, impact policy, impact procedure if they see something that will help. And we're going to incentivize our employees. I've been trying to do this for 3 years. Incentivize the employees. Ask them how we can save money. Ask them how we can increase efficiencies. Ask them what we can do better. And give them a reward if they actually save us money. And Mr. Mitchell said, we'll give them movie passes. That's not what I'm talking about. I want these people seriously active and engaged because they, after all, work for you. I am so happy to be here. I so look forward to being your next mayor. I can't wait. I have so many wonderful plans ready to go and so many really, truly good citizens ready to help me do it.
Thank you. Ms. Moyo.
Hi, I'm Jerry Moyo, and I want to be the next mayor of West Palm Beach. You tonight have asked some very important questions, and we've just discussed some really critical issues that are critical to the well-being of our city. These issues are complex issues, and they're going to need somebody with a steady hand, somebody with extensive leadership experience. And I'm that person. I have a PhD in education leadership. I worked as assistant superintendent of schools. I was the vice president of a software company. I've been your commissioner for 4 years. I know what it means to be accountable, and I know what it means to be accountable in both the public sector and the private sector. When I'm mayor, here's what I'm going to do, and this is what you can count on. I'm going to have a laser focus on jobs. We cannot have a jobless recovery. We have to bring jobs to our city, and we have some great opportunities to do that, some wonderful possibilities. When I'm mayor, I'm going to take on pension reform. It's something we have to do. When I'm mayor, I'm going to work with the county to get that convention center hotel built. We need that hotel. When I'm mayor, I'm going to work with the neighborhoods and make sure that we work together to put together a neighborhood plan that I will help fund. And when I'm mayor, I'm going to dig deep into the city budget. We have to look in every corner to find that $8 to $10 million, and there can be no sacred cows. I have had a 30-year track record of honesty and integrity, and when I'm mayor, you can continue to expect that. Our city is the heartbeat of the county. People come here because we have great cultural venues. They come here to have fun, or they come here just to sit and enjoy the downtown waterfront park. I hope you'll vote for me on March 8th.
Thank you. Ms. Ryan.
Thank you. And thank you all for coming tonight. I'm not from City Hall. I'm from the outside. I've been a business professional my entire career. I have given back to the community. I was raised by a military man. I'm one of 7 children. I put myself through college and I put my son through college. While I built my company from scratch, I raised my son. What amazes me is that as busy as I have been, as many projects as I have done, as many communities that I have worked in, that I know more about this city and how it works than our sitting city commissioners here tonight. They complain about the budget and not being able to have any control. They complain about not being able to talk to department heads. They complain about the overspending. Well, I've traveled for the last 18 years in and out of this community to do what it is that I do, because I know what it takes to try to put a business together in the city of West Palm Beach. I know what it takes to try to renovate your home. I know what it feels like to have your home broken into. I understand that there are things that we can do. There is waste throughout the entire city. Yes, there's going to be pension reform, and that's ridiculous for anyone to think that there isn't. Look at this country. Every single municipality is facing the same problems, and we need to understand what those problems are if we're going to be able to solve them, and we're going to bring people back to the city, create those higher jobs. The education, the digital domain opportunities are phenomenal. My greatest concern is, will we be able to get it through our building and permitting department in order to get it built? The convention center hotel, the only way that we are going to make that happen is if the county and the city work in cooperation. Nobody on the city commission has even understands how the county commission works. You need to get a level of respect from the county in order to let them give the city a seat at the table. If you want that convention center hotel built, you're going to need to bring accountability and transparency. Vote for Paula Ryan on March 8th.
All right. Thank you all. This concludes our debate. The election is on March 8th. If no candidate gets 50% plus one, a runoff will be held on March 22nd. Please remember to vote, and thanks for coming and thanks for watching.